Yeah,
and,
like it's being live streamed, which was like...
Oh, like that was... It's not shown, but like, you know what's happening. And it's very chilling. But it's very real.
This entire film is basically a giant social commentary on like social media and like a lot of things like that. Because there's a lot of moments where I'm like, this is totally like making fun of like Instagram and like Twitter and all these things. Like my favorite is the joke where the freaking moderator, like Gaston character, he's got all his sponsors, and then the second he like reveals Belle, and it's like, oh, like it's just a girl, like nothing was bad here. You look like a dick. All his sponsors just leave, and he's like, no, my sponsors. It's like this is like a total commentary on how like social media platforms are these days. Hey guys, I'm Bill, also known as the Barbecue Games on Instagram.
And I'm Alex, his sister, who brings only chaos.
And together we are the Gaming and Collecting Podcast, a mostly video game centered podcast.
But half the time, we just talk about anime.
And that collecting thing, well, that's mostly just an implication at best.
So come along and enjoy us on this adventure
as we discuss the games that shaped us. So, how you been?
Well, it's been a while since the last time we or has it?
Yeah, the last one we did was, I think, like
was it a week?
Yeah, it was like a week ago. You were exhausted.
It hasn't been. Yeah, I was very delirious for that podcast. I'm still recovering. I think I talked a little bit. I've been working weird shifts for work, but I'm finally going to be back on normal shifts next week.
Thank God.
Which I'm so excited about because it's been pretty miserable.
Yeah, like, it's been a weird couple of weeks. The month of October and into November have been, for anyone wondering when this was recorded, have been pretty odd. I mean,
it's insane how fast they went.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane that, like, not next weekend, but the weekend after is Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
and then it's
nuts.
December.
It's kind of crazy. Like, I think I've done more collabs this month than, like, I have actual
episodes
of our podcast. But
it's just been life right now.
Yeah,
but some good things have been going on. I mean, we went to a con, but we're not going to talk about it.
We're saving that for later.
Yeah.
Yep. Been collecting a lot of manga lately. Manga's been like my collecting thing.
Mine's mostly been One Piece. Just kidding. I'm getting collecting the 3-in-1 One Piece mangas, which is good. Also got a Rohan Kashibe manga, which is a spin-off of the JoJo's Part 4. And I'm excited. I think it's also, like, they made, like, a spin-off show on Netflix. I think that's what it's based off of, so I'm excited to start collecting that as well.
Yeah, I've been mostly just collecting, like, a few different things here and there. Like, I've been collecting the light novel version of My Teen Romantic Comedy Snaffer, which is actually called My Youth Romantic Comedy Was Wrong As I Expected, which is funny. I've also been I'm still collecting, like, a couple of my ongoings. Like, I'm collecting Spy Family, like, Mao, which is Rumiko Takagashi's current manga.
You have to say it as Mao.
I don't think that's how it's pronounced, but
no, but that's how I pronounce it every time I see it.
Yeah, a bunch of stuff like that though, like Kaguya-sama. I'm still following that one. A whole bunch. I've been doing that. I haven't really been collecting a lot of games lately. I've been kind of holding back. There is a few, like, here and there that I'd like to, like, pick up at some point. Most, like, probably the new Sonic I'm eventually going to pick up because I heard that's pretty good. I did pick up 2 Squeenix games though. I got I got the new Valkyrie game, and then I got the new Star Ocean, and I'm looking forward to trying those out whenever I have time. I mean, more PS5 games. Got to fill up that library at some point.
Squeenix just sounds so...
Yeah, well, Squeenix is kind of blessed sometimes.
Oh,
so.
no.
More the Square half than the Enix half, but that's besides the point. But yeah, other than that, mostly collecting, trying to catch up on anime. You've been rewatching One Piece again.
Well, yeah, of course.
Because you can just rewatch One Piece over and over again.
And I can be totally content. I rewatched the Thriller Bark arc, which I know a lot of people complain about being very long, and it definitely does feel stretched at times, but it is a good arc. The final, especially like the end of the arc with Zoro's like Zoro being the best ever. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Other than that,
Brooke's backstory.
Yeah. Yeah. Other than that, I've been catching up on a few shows. Like I'm caught up on Spy Family right now with how many dubbed episodes there are in season 2.
Nice.
And then I watched all of the Slime Diaries, which I have to say is a very pointless show, but it was very entertaining.
But that's all that matters, though, as long as it's entertaining.
Very entertaining. Other than that, though, I'm waiting on a few things, like particularly the Kaguya-sama film, and then a few others. Eventually, I'm gonna watch Chainsaw Man once there's more a good amount of dub that I can just sit down and watch.
I definitely want to watch that too. I've heard really great things about it, so
yeah,
I definitely want to check it out.
Yep. But other than that, we're actually we do have a topic, kind of related, anime.
What?
A thing we're a gaming and anime podcast at this point. We're not even hiding it anymore.
No.
But yeah. So we have our ongoing series called Anime Swap, which is
it's kind of been on pause because of just how work has been going. We watched one series and now we need to watch the other.
We picked 2 really long series, and we've only got through one of them so far, and the second one is longer, but it should go by quicker just because of what it is.
Yeah.
Not going to spoil that yet. But, yeah, so in the interim, we actually came up with an idea. Because we're doing full series now for Anime Swap, we've decided, we're gonna take the movies and do a separate series now.
Yeah.
Something I guess kind of along the lines of 3 anime films.
Yeah.
Where we're basically the idea is we watch 3 anime films and we're gonna just talk about them.
Yeah, and it really just started because we were scrolling through like I think HBO.
HBO Max.
I was like, I've seen this film pop up a bunch of times and I've just been wanting to watch it. Let's just watch it. So we just decided to watch it. And I'm like, all right, let's make a podcast out of it too.
That was right before you went on nights too, so you were kind of in a mood. And you're just like, I need something to watch. But yeah, so the first film we watched is one that you really can't escape from because it's literally been everywhere lately.
Yeah, I've seen it everywhere.
You see it in the store, on the shelf, everywhere.
Yeah.
It's on HBO Max.
Spotify. Yep.
The first film we watched is Belle.
Yeah.
Is Belle based off a manga, or is it...
I don't believe so.
Is it an original?
I think it's just an original, well, it is based off a classic fairy tale.
Well...
But I don't know if
yes.
it was based off a manga. I think it was just like a story they wanted to tell with music. Which this, I will tell you, this is... Actually, 2 of the ones that we're going to talk about are very music oriented. So,
yes. Funny how that worked, actually.
If you don't like music, this might be the one for you. But I will say the music in this is beautiful.
I do find it interesting, too. The name of the film in Japan is Ryuto... I'm sorry if I butcher this. Ryuto Sabakasu no Hime, which literally translates to The Dragon and the Freckled Princess, which makes a lot of sense.
It does make a lot of sense.
In context.
In context. But our version, the American version, was called Belle. Which, when I was hinting about how it was based off a fairy tale, it's based off Beauty and the Beast. Which, Freckled Princess, Dragon, Beauty, Beast,
Literally in the film, the main protagonist's name is Belle.
Yeah.
And the quote-unquote antagonist at the start is the Beast.
Yeah.
It's literally Beauty and the Beast at times.
It took us, though, a little bit to be like, oh, wait, this is Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Like, it actually took us halfway through the movie to realize it.
But here's the thing, though. The film has 2 very distinct... Worlds. There's So the game is... It's based around this online game, which is essentially...
Well, it's not even a game. It's like a social media.
Well, it's essentially a parody of that shitty metaverse thing that failed miserably.
Yeah.
But it's basically if that actually worked.
If that was successful.
It's kind of like Ready Player One in a sense, I guess you could say. Where it's like this app where you go on the phone and you can be whoever you want to be in this.
Well, it's not even that. It basically, the technology is that it's called, I don't know exactly, it's called You. And it's basically like the true you, and it takes like it does, like, I don't know what it's called, but it's like full body scanning and personality scanning. And it's basically like if you have a shitty personality, you have a shitty avatar. So really, it's more about like who you really are is what creates your avatar, and like what your feelings are.
And a really cool effect this anime does is the inside the U segments, it's all CG, and then on the real world, it goes to traditional animation, which gives it a very distinct like stylistic difference between the two.
Yeah. So the main character's name is Suzu, and she, I guess like you could just describe her as a very like plain girl, but she has a beautiful singing
Even
voice.
for anime standards, she's very plain.
Yeah. But she has a wonderful personality and
very dark backstory.
Oh yeah, very dark backstory. And your kind of first introduction to her, well, your first introduction to her is actually her U persona, which is named Belle. And Belle is beautiful and pretty, and she's like the most famous person in the U universe, basically. And she sings wonderful songs. And after the main opening scene is like this musical number, which is super fun and upbeat, and then it kind of goes into who Suzu is, and that's kind of where you kind of realize, okay, like at first you might not even realize that she is Belle.
Yeah, it's doesn't really. You kind of get the idea of it, but it doesn't exactly like spell it out for you.
Yeah, so it kind of follows her. And one of the first scenes really you see of her is like her and her interaction with her father, and how she's very closed off. She's very quiet and like almost doesn't want to connect to him.
But he's very supportive and doesn't like
doesn't push it.
Yeah. Because you later find out that she had lost her mother at a young age because her mother tried to save a drowning child and then ended up drowning herself. Meanwhile, the child was saved by someone else.
Yeah, well, it was, she had a life vest on and she gave the life vest to the child so the child wouldn't drown. But unfortunately, like, she passed away, and after that, Suzu was just never the same. And one of the big plot points, too, is that, like, Suzu and her mother, like, she would always sing with her mom. And after her mom died, she, like, couldn't sing really anymore. But after kind of finding the U app and singing, like, she found she was able to sing again as Belle. Like, maybe she can't be Suzu, but she can sing as Belle. And that's kind of one of the main plot points, too.
Yeah.
And no one knows who Belle is. Because no one really knows who anyone is on the online app. Like, no one really knows who they are. It's all a mystery. So basically anyone, like Suzu, just random high school girl, is suddenly this huge pop star in a whole nother world.
Now, what's also very fascinating, too, is, like, despite her kind of shut-off appearance, she has a pretty significant, like, group of friends over the course of the film that builds up.
Oh, yeah. Like, there's her closest friend, who is, like, the very techie one, who kind of ends up helping her with the whole
The one who
app
basically
and
just makes her, like, a
basically
fucking
her manager.
superstar.
Basically her manager, and knew it was her. And then another good friend is actually one of the most popular girls in school who plays, like, the saxophone.
Who she initially thinks is, like, one of the...
Yeah, so it kind of shows how they create the U person, like, the U profile. And it scans, like, a picture, and she at first thinks that it scanned her friend, and that's why it became so beautiful. But really, it was just who she really was on the inside, you know.
What's funny, too, is, like, that character in particular, you'd think is kind of more on the snobby side, because you don't really meet her at first. And then you actually find out she's kind of just an awkward girl, just like Suzu
just
is.
like Suzu.
And then there's also her love interest, who's another friend of the group, and then...
Yeah, the kayak guy.
The kayak guy, yeah, the president of the kayak club.
And he's the only one.
In the club.
But he ends up being super helpful in the end, too.
Yep, and then there's the other guy in the group who is...
Her childhood friend.
Her childhood friend and implied love interest, but it doesn't really go anywhere in the film itself.
Well, yeah, because it's not really about that.
No, it's not important, but it's very heavily implied.
Because one of the things about, like, this Beauty and the Beast retelling is that it's not really the Beauty and the Beast love, as in, like, romance, like, romantic love. It's more of it's a platonic love.
Platonic.
So, as the film is going on, they see, like, she's actually going to be throwing this huge concert in the U universe, but as it's getting ready to go, the Beast comes in and ruins the concert, and she has to cancel it. But after that, she kind of wants to know who the Beast is, which leads her and her friend, her techie friend, on an adventure to kind of figure out who the Beast actually is, and figure out kind of why he's doing what he's doing.
And the film does a good job of making you think about it, because at first you think, oh, maybe it's this person over here, and then it's like, oh, I guess it's not this person.
Yeah.
And then the reveal of who it is very...
Yeah. And there's going to be spoilers in this, so
yeah,
if you haven't watched it, go and watch it first and then listen to this podcast. So as she's going, she's meeting... she ends up finding the Beast in this castle, which is like the Beauty and the Beast castle. And she ends up trying to befriend him, trying to get to know him, and he pushes her away a lot. And
she at first notices the scars.
Yeah, so on the back of the Beast, like, there's all these bruises, like, and in the game it shows as the bruises, and there's moments where he's like, there's like one scene after they're in the castle and they sing a beautiful song, she sings a beautiful song, and they do like the Beauty and the Beast dance, and he like keels over and you see like the bruises like are appearing again, and it's actually really sad because the interpretation is that he's getting those bruises like in real life.
Yeah.
And that's how they're appearing.
And then an interesting thing then that happens next is the whole search for who the Beast is.
Yeah.
Where like you get all these different false leads and like these people that everyone thinks, oh, it's totally this person, or maybe it's totally this person.
Like one was like this artist and one was like this baseball player who never used his, like, never showed his back.
But what's funny too, and then the poser woman.
Oh yeah, the lady.
she was the one that was unlikable. The other two were actually pretty likable, especially when you found out why they actually had like the tattoos / bruises.
Yeah.
Because it ended up being like, oh, now I just feel like a jerk.
Yeah. So basically, the film goes along, and like one of the things she's really trying to do is figure out who the Beast is, and then she eventually figures out who the Beast is when they're searching through these live streams, and they're trying to expose who the Beast is, and basically, like, to expose them, there's this guy, they didn't really matter, they were more just to move plot, the, like, Avengers or something.
Oh, the freaking
like, U-Force
the
or
mod,
something.
basically the mods,
I
guess you could say.
They were just plot devices, but, one of them was, like, the Gaston character, basically.
They were social commentary, that's what they were.
Yeah.
They were just social commentary.
One of the things that they're trying to do is they can actually, like, use this weird angel thing.
And they can reveal who a player actually is in the real world, which is, in reality, would be an extreme violation of privacy.
Oh, yeah.
That's besides the point.
So, as they're searching for who it is, she's desperately trying to find them because she knows something's wrong. Like, because at first when she's meeting the Beast, she kind of catches on that, like, maybe this isn't an adult, and, like, this actually might be, like, a child.
Yeah.
Which, ding, 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 it is.
Yeah. Well, because earlier on you see they're interviewing these people on the Beast, and you see this young boy who mentions that the Beast is his hero.
Yeah. And he's also, like, his avatar is this little, like, angel, who also is near the Beast. But basically, like, they end up finding them.
Well, they find it by that kid singing.
They find it by the kid singing, and then, but she's like, is that the Beast? He can't be the Beast. And she kind of realized, oh, he's the angel. And then, like, unfortunately, it's, like, actually a really dark scene where you kind of find out that, like, the reason why the Beast has bruises on his back is because he has a very abusive father.
Yeah, because the mother died.
The mother died, and he just was never the same. And he has the bruises because he would protect his little brother, which is, like, really depressing. But at first, like, she tries to contact them and is trying to talk to them, and the Beast, the boy who is the Beast, basically is like, oh, you're just here to laugh at us like everyone else, because people would just go in and laugh and be like, I can't believe I saw that, and then leave, which is horribly dark that anyone would do that, but I feel like that's real. And
social commentary.
No, yeah. And they shut the camera off. So what she does in order to reach out to the Beast is that she sings, and she makes the guy reveal who she is. So she's no longer Belle when she sings. She's just,
Suzu.
yeah, she's just Suzu. And she sings, and it's a beautiful song. And after that, she is able to get through to him. And he's like, "Oh my God, you really are her." And she's like, "Yes, no, that's."
And then, of course, right before she finally starts to figure out where they are,
the father
comes in
back.
and shuts the entire thing down.
Yeah.
And then we get this great scene of them basically playing detective to find them.
No, yeah, to find them, and it's actually really sad, but some of the stuff was like there were adults there, and they were like trying to call the police, and the police was like, "Sorry, there's nothing we can do." And in reality, that's really great commentary, because a lot of the times with child abuse cases, stuff like that really does happen, where they don't like do anything, and that's how kids end up seriously hurt or unfortunately like deceased. Like, it's so sad, but that's so true. So Suzu ends up leaving, and she goes, they figure out where he's located, and she goes to Tokyo, which is like several miles away, and she takes the train. And one thing she does is that she calls her father, and like they finally kind of reconnect, and it's like all the pieces are coming together, where she's like she's back to who she was.
Yeah. She's
moving on. And I think a lot of it too was almost like not a reality check, but like she's like, "Oh my God, I've been doing this," and
it was kind of a commentary on the whole.
I've had such a wonderful father.
Yeah, it was a commentary on how life's too short to like live in misery.
Yeah.
But you get the final climax where she confronts the boy's father.
Like the father, like she.
Father straight up tries to rip her face off.
Yeah, because she like protects them, like she's hugging them both, because she's not gonna let them go. She's not gonna let them get hurt by the father. And the father just like yanks on her face and like cuts her cheek, and like she turns around and she just looks at him as he yells. He's literally, there's like a scene where he's just screaming at her to make her try and leave, but she stands her ground.
And then he realizes how pathetic he is as a human being.
Yeah, and
he
runs
off.
I think he finally realizes what he's doing. And it was a powerful scene. Like, it was very, like, you're like, holy shit, like, this is not what I expected.
Dark really fast.
It did. And we're probably missing some other scenes too, but.
That's why you watch the movie.
Oh yeah, and we watched it the first time, and then I went back and rewatched it too. And, like, you see more and stuff, and, like, oh my God, we weren't prepared for the roller coaster. We were just putting it on to put something on, but then it was like, oh my God, it really took you into the story.
And then following that, then you get the best climax where she goes back on the train and then runs into her dad again, and they finally reunite.
Yeah.
In a nice, like, touching scene.
Yeah, because he's like, "You want to get dinner, your favorite place?" And she's like, "Yeah, Dad, I'm home." Like, or I'm back. And it was like, oh, it was so touching.
It was basically like to showcase like how like there could be two sides of this situation.
Oh yeah.
Because in another world, she could have ended up being those kids.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And I think that kind of helps her change. And after that, she kind of gains the confidence to sing again. Mm-hmm. Like, she doesn't need to be Belle. She can just be Suzu.
And plus now she has this big group of friends that she didn't have before.
Big group of friends and potential boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's never really shown through, but it's implied.
It's so implied, but honestly, that's probably the least developed character in the movie now that I think about it. The love interest.
I think he's kind of there to make you think he's the Beast at points, but then you realize, no, he's not the Beast.
No, he's just a side character.
Yeah.
Morality chain, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I definitely recommend that movie. It definitely was not something...
It came out of nowhere, too. Like, it just kind of appeared one day.
Yeah, but honestly, the music is wonderful. The soundtrack is beautiful. The art, the design, like the character designs in the two different worlds is really
music.
fun.
The music.
And the music. From just the background music to, like, the actual songs, like, really incredible. Like, they put a lot of hard work into it. So I definitely recommend, if you want to see a different retelling of the Beauty and the Beast, I definitely recommend it.
It's interesting because, like, lately, like, the biggest anime films as of late have been, like, all the the Makoto Shinkai films,
Yeah.
like Your Name, Weathering with You, the upcoming whatever the
I think
chair
it's
one's
like
called,
Suzumi or
something like that.
Yeah.
Those have been like the biggest ones as of late, like
Yeah.
not counting Ghibli films or like any other like big name properties.
Yeah.
But these smaller ones have been popping up
This
lately.
was Studio Chizu.
Yep.
Yeah. But I definitely I thought it was wonderful.
It's definitely a recommend. It's definitely a movie I'd recommend watching though when you're in like a good headspace because
Oh yeah, because
ooh,
my god.
there's some dark moments in this
Oh
film.
yeah, very very dark moments, especially especially the scene where it's implied that they watched the abuse happen.
Yeah,
And,
like it's being live streamed, which
like-
was like
That was, it's not shown, but you know what's happening, and
Yeah.
it's very chilling, but it's very real.
this entire film is basically a giant social commentary on like social media and like
Yeah.
a lot of things like that because there's a lot of moments where I'm like, this is totally like making fun of like Instagram and like Twitter and all these
yeah.
things. Like my favorite is the joke where the freaking moderator, like Gaston character, he's got all his sponsors, and then the second he like reveals Belle,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, like it's just a girl, like nothing was bad here. You look like a dick. All his sponsors
Yeah.
just leave, and he's like, no, my sponsors.
My
It's
sponsors!
it's
Yeah.
like this is like a total commentary on how like social
Yeah.
media platforms are these days. Then the whole like everybody's like avatar is like an exaggeration of themselves
yeah.
at times.
My favorite one was when the lady who was like the imposter, her avatar is just a big baby.
Yeah, which is
Because that's
perfect.
just what she was.
Yep.
A big old baby. But
Yeah. No, this film was definitely worth a watch, though. I will say.
yeah. For the music alone.
Yeah,
Like-
both the English and the Japanese versions.
Yeah. Definitely really great movie. Would recommend.
Yeah. And I guess moving on, before we get on to the next film, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Whee!
And we're back.
We're back.
We never shared what we were drinking this episode.
Ah, what are you drinking, Bill?
Well, it's only 2 o'clock right now, so
So you're drinking a whole thing of vodka.
yeah. No, I'm drinking a Canada Dry ginger ale.
Ah, it's gin. He's just drinking gin.
Sure. Sure.
Just kidding. Yeah, I'm drinking Sprite because I have a problem and I really like Sprite. It's my only soda I drink unless I need caffeine, and then maybe I'll have a Coke. For the most part, Sprite.
Yep.
Whee!
Now, anyways, so moving on to the next film we watched. So after Belle, then we took kind of like a week break, and then we decided to watch a second film. And this one we've had in the back burner for
Oh yeah,
probably 2 years now.
it's been out for a while now. It came out in
2016 in Japan, the dub.
2019 for the dub.
Wow, it was that long.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's sad. But anyways, so the second film we watched was A Silent Voice.
Oh my god, depression. the
Another
movie.
depressing movie.
Well, this one was even more depressing. This one was really sad.
Yeah. So in Japan, it is known as Koe no Katachi, which translates to the shape of voice. And it is actually based off of a manga of the same name.
Yep.
Only seven volumes, so it's a pretty short manga, easy to read.
Yeah.
But it eventually received a full-on film adaptation, although some people say it should have got an anime adaptation, like a quick little anime or OVA.
Yeah.
But that's besides the point, because the film itself is a masterpiece,
It's incredible. Yeah.
I will say. So 100% traditional animation, which is nice.
Yeah.
This was another one that kind of came out during like the spree of like Your Name and all those like other
Yeah.
films. This one kind of appeared in the background, like because
Yeah.
Your Name kind of came and like was like very popular and like
Yeah.
everyone was talking about it, and then a bunch of others popped out that were equally as popular, but
Yeah.
didn't get quite the attention that Your Name did.
And I will say, I do really enjoy Your Name. But I think this film is so much more powerful and...
Going back to Your Name, you realize that film's actually pretty tame.
No, yeah.
Aside from the body swapping.
Yeah. Like, this one is very, like... Whoa. Like, it's very emotional.
Yeah.
Like, it makes you want to cry.
So,
a lot.
A Silent Voice is best described as it's a mix of... it's got elements of coming of age, psychological drama, disability, bullying, forgiveness, and mental health, suicide, friendship, opposite gender. You know, a lot of stuff going on.
It covers a lot. Yeah.
This film's very deep off the deep end in a lot of ways.
I mean, the opening scene is literally...
The main character's about to off himself.
The main character is...
He's literally selling all his possessions, giving his mother all his money, quitting his job, and then it's heavily implied he's going to jump off a bridge.
Yeah, he was planning to kill himself.
And then
which is like, what a way to open a movie. Like, you're like, okay, I know where this film is going.
Yep. So then very very effectively after, then we cut right back to a flashback. Which explains who this character is. So the main character of the film is... What is his name? So these are Japanese names, so I apologize in advance, but... Shoya Ishida.
Yep.
And he is the typical middle... They're in elementary school, actually, at this point.
Elementary school, yeah.
He's a typical elementary school child, which means he has no filter and he's kind of a dick.
Yeah. He was also considered a delinquent among most of his classmates.
Yeah.
Well.
So the film opens with him, and he's kind of like... He's the delinquent of the class, but he's also, like, surprisingly popular.
Yeah.
For the time, and he's got kind of his group of friends, and a couple, like, closer ones, like the girl. His neighbor... Who, what was her name again? I always forget that. Oh, that was Naoka Unio, I believe her name was.
Yeah.
So they start out. He's got the group of friends, and then the film's plot kicks off with the introduction of Shoko Nishimiya.
Yep.
Who is a deaf girl.
Yeah. And it starts out where she walks into the classroom and the teacher is like, introduce herself. And she pulls out a notepad.
Well, no, first she just stands there.
Yeah.
And doesn't respond and at first because you don't realize she's deaf.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to the teacher basically going like, oh, right. She's deaf, by the way, everybody.
Yeah. And that was obviously the kid's first interaction with someone who was deaf. So they didn't really understand. And
you also have to keep in mind these are elementary school
kids.
kids.
These are elementary school kids.
These are literal children.
Yeah, these are kids. So she joins in, and, at first, a lot of the girls are welcoming and nice to her.
Other than a certain one in the back who we'll get to more later. But...
Well, she starts out as nice. Even if it's a fake nice, she starts out as nice. And she is basically using her notebook to communicate with everyone. And Shoya decides to
be a dick.
Yeah, he decides to be his delinquent self and starts bullying her. And at first it's little things, small things, but eventually it escalates.
Yeah, he basically takes it too far.
Yeah, and as it's escalating, she's getting isolated by other people. Like, at one point, she makes a friend, and the friend ends up transferring and moving away.
Yeah.
She loses the friend, and there's other characters, too, like, the blonde one who always has, like, her hair in braids and glasses, who's also popular. And her character, like, she doesn't participate in the bullying, but she doesn't do anything about it. It's very much like the bystander effect.
I think her name was Miki Kawai, I think her name was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird Japanese names.
But basically, most of the flashback is basically showcasing the bullying and how bullying can escalate, which is really real. At one point, I think the teachers are like, hi, like, a new teacher is introduced and she's going to teach the class sign language. And the dark-haired girl stands up and is like, why do I have to learn this? I don't care about this. I don't want to learn this.
Which is a real thing, because a lot of cases, like...
Oh, yeah.
it's a commitment. It really is. Like, it's not something that everyone can just pick up. That's why they have a lot of alternative methods now.
Yeah.
That are just easier.
Yeah.
But you get stuff like that, and then like the other things like they continuously steal her hearing aids.
Yeah. And that actually escalates to the point. At first, it's just like fun and games, but then it ended up going to the point where Shoko gets seriously hurt. And not a lot of people know this, but hearing aids, like, they're not comfortable for the wearer. They, like, even though it helps them, they're not comfortable.
You're not supposed to just rip them out.
No, yeah, if you rip them out, you can get really injured, and it's very painful. I mean, just, like, probably just imagine, like, poking your eardrum with a Q-tip. Like, I'm sure it's similar to that. Yeah, probably even worse.
And they're also very expensive.
Oh, yeah, and I think they end up saying, like, she loses, like, 5 pairs, and one major thing that happens is Shoya's mom makes him apologize to Shoko's mom and Shoko, and he tries to get out of it, but he doesn't really apologize to her.
Because remember, children.
Yeah, because children, and a scene that you actually see is that you see Shoya's mother with her ears bleeding.
It implied that she ripped her earrings out.
Yeah, and the implication was she ripped, because in Japan it's very much a culture of an eye for an eye with stuff like that, so she ripped her earrings out as kind of a way to say, I'm sorry. And she also ended up paying for the
hearing aids.
Which was a lot of money, and Shoya's family was not wealthy.
No.
So
mother was a hairdresser.
His mom was a hairdresser.
Dad's out of the picture.
Dad's out of the picture, and he also has an older sister who's not really shown.
No, the older sister's kind of a running gag where you see everyone in her family except her.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a very dark opening, and then
after that, Shoko transfers schools.
Well, first she attempts to once again befriend Shoya.
Yeah.
Which he then basically assaults her.
Yeah.
Like he tries to like beat the shit out of her, and
yeah.
she fights back.
Yeah. Which then leads to her transferring.
Yep. And then everyone in the school turns on Shoya.
Yeah.
Because they make him the scapegoat.
Well, it isn't even that. It's more, I think what happens too is that the teacher at the front, is like, we know it was you, Shoya. Remember? It was like the teacher who started it, and then everyone was like, he was like, everyone tell me it was Shoya, like, basically, to the class, and then they all admit, because they don't want to be in trouble.
No. And they make him the scapegoat, and all his friends basically turn on him, and he becomes the bully victim.
Yeah.
Which is a bit even more drastic, because they all bullied her.
Yeah.
Like, even the ones who claimed they didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of did.
Yeah. I mean, by not taking action, like, you were accepting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're moving, because children are children, they just move their blame to someone else.
Yeah. And after that, it kind of basically shows how he was bullied, and even after going to new schools, like going to middle school, going to high school, going to middle school, like, it followed him, and he basically shut everyone out of his life. And one of the things you see, especially as he goes into the high school and the current version of himself, everyone around him, besides, like, his family, has an X over their face.
Yep.
So, and it's basically showing he's just, like, he's already basically crossed them out of his life.
Yeah.
Like, he's not even going to try X it out. Like, it's a cool tool, because a lot of the times they go with, like, the no face, but I kind of like that they just instead went with, like, these X's that once he connects with the character, they peel
The
down.
X falls off. It doesn't just, like, cut to another shot, and then the next thing you know, the face is back.
Yeah.
It was a cool visual effect.
I really liked it. I thought it was a good tool.
It was a different take on a recurring theme, essentially. Yeah. But yeah, so we get to that, and then we finally get back to Shoya about to kill himself.
Yeah.
But he decides not to right away, because he first wants to
make amends with Shoko.
Get some closure. So he ends up going to, because it's implied at this point he's learned how to do sign language at this point, completely. and he ends up running into her. It was like an after-school thing, because they went to.
So it wasn't running in. He like heard she was gonna be there. Like
Okay, that's what it is. Yeah.
And he wanted to basically find her and find closure.
Because they go to different schools at this point.
Yeah, they go to different schools. He hasn't seen her. And he basically finds her, and she runs away from him at first, which honestly deserved. And he kind of accepts that as well.
But doesn't give up and chases her down.
But chases her down, and she's shocked when he communicates with sign language, and is basically like, I'm sorry.
And he gives her the notepad, the waterlogged, soggy notebook that...
well, at this point, it's not soggy anymore.
Well, it does again.
Yeah.
He essentially gives that to her.
Yeah.
And then kind of tries to, like, make some sort of amends, but...
Yeah.
It's implied that basically this is where he decides, okay, maybe I'm not going to kill myself.
Yeah. So he ends up going home, and he gets confronted by his mom, like, immediately, because obviously he sold all of his clothes, sold all of his, basically, personal items and has nothing. And
it's almost like he was trying to disappear.
Yeah. And the mom basically calls him out at the dinner table, which the mom character is 10 out of 10 a great character.
She's a mood. She's very much a mood.
She's very much a mood, and so is his niece.
His niece, yeah.
Also a mood.
But yeah, she threatens to, like, burn all the money he's saved
and then
up.
She accidentally does.
Because she stops paying attention with the lighter.
Yeah.
And then he has nothing anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then we kind of cut back to...
He keeps trying to see her, but now every time he tries to, there's someone blocking his path, which at first you don't realize you don't know who it is.
Yeah,
They're claiming to be Shoka's boyfriend, but it's really Shoka's little sister.
Yeah, which I could tell from a minute that was a girl.
Yeah,
I was like, that's a girl. That's very obviously a girl.
And then after that, he kind of ends up making one of his first friends, basically.
Yeah, he meets the other outcast of the school.
Yeah,
who is basically getting his
broccoli hair.
Yeah, who's getting. So he's a complex character as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of complex characters in this movie.
Oh, yeah. A lot of great characters. And I think that's why people complained about it being just a movie.
Well, yeah, because they missed a lot from the manga that explains more about them.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so he meets his first real friend, which you get a great scene of basically it's this kid who's getting his bike stolen.
Yeah.
And Shoya decides, all right, I'll just sacrifice my own bike.
Yep.
For the sake of this person who I don't even know.
Yeah.
And you get the first scene of the X coming off the face, and he meets his first friend, who basically becomes his, like, side man.
Basically his best friend. And he's a precious character. He has a goofy design, and they end up hanging out. They go to an arcade, and, like, he has such a goofy personality.
But he's also very flawed at the same time, though.
Oh, yeah.
Like, his compulsive lying tendencies and...
Yeah.
A lot of things that are more expressed in the manga.
Yeah. Than
they are in the film. But yeah, so he goes through that, and then eventually there's a point where he tries to see Shoko again.
Yep.
And her sister shows up again to stop him, which then all of a sudden his friend shows up. He's like, hey, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
And the whole time the commotion gets Shoko's attention, and she finally, like, realizes, oh,
he's been trying to see me this whole time.
I wish I knew that.
Yeah. Which is really sweet. Oh, Tillard's here. It's really sweet. And then after that, they kind of start, connecting more and hanging out more.
There's also a point where they, like, hang out on the bridge again, and the notebook ends up getting flung into the river.
Yes.
Again.
Tillard is behind.
There's
Bill.
a cat here now.
Yeah, and what ends up happening is the little sister, who is still has a grudge against Shoya, which deserved.
She took it a little far, though.
She took it a little far, and I guess, in Japan culture, I guess you can't play in the river. It is very offense, and he got suspended from school.
Yep.
Which, like, I don't know why that got him in trouble, but I guess, I don't know.
Japan.
Why are you wet? Why is your head wet? Sorry, I'm petting my cat, and she's wet. I don't know what she got into. She got into something. I don't know if I wiped it off. Anyways, we're getting real distracted because there's a cat here. Kind of after that, though, he ends up, like, making amends with the younger sister and ends up...
And you get a
Because
really...
he finds her, basically, because Shoko finds out that because of her, Shoya was, suspended.
Yeah.
She yells at her, because she's obviously upset at her sister for doing that. And her sister runs away from home, and that's kind of how her and Shoya get closer, because he ends up bringing her back home and giving her a meal.
Confrontation with Shoko's mother, because she's still holding a grudge as well.
Yeah. Well, that's not yet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's still a little bit. It's more just the little sister is now meeting, and she kind of realized that, like, okay, this guy has changed for the better. And after that, it's kind of like Shoya gradually starts getting more and more friends, more and more connections, and she also reunites
with her the one friend she had.
Yeah, well, he helps Shoko reunite with her, and she talks, she's like, I really regret running away. Like, I feel like a coward, and I wish I was you who tried to find me. And it's really sweet, and you go on, and they keep introducing more characters, and then, unfortunately, the dark-haired girl comes back. And she just has a grudge against Shoko.
She clearly never grew up.
No, she didn't grow up, but I think she has issues of her own.
She also has a much deeper backstory in the...
Yeah. Than the manga.
Cat's a menace.
Yeah. She has 50 billion toys, but what would she rather play with? A bottle cap.
Yes.
So she comes and she has feelings for Shoya too. And at one point she even like assaults Shoko, which is cuckoo, crazy.
Oh yeah, threatens her in the
yeah, at the amusement park.
At the amusement park.
And it's like, like this girl has issues, but you don't really. It's unfortunate, but I feel like you can't really like feel bad for her in the movie because you don't know her full story.
Yeah, the manga missed. The anime missed a lot of elements from the manga that gave backstory to all the side characters.
Yeah.
What's funny about this film is at first you think it's mostly going to be about Shoko, but then it actually is more of a Shoya film.
No, it really is about Shoya. And at one point, I'd say after that, at one point there's a confrontation with the mother. And it doesn't go well, but then they actually invite Shoya over summer break for
the mother's birthday.
For the mother's birthday. Oh, actually, but we forgot about the scene before that, where before summer break, all the friends meet up, and basically Shoya basically shuts everyone out.
Well, because it ends up being too much overwhelming, and his insecurities come back because he runs into the blonde boy from the beginning, his former friend, who's now just a massive dickhead for no reason.
Yeah, he just I don't know. But the thing is we don't really get a character explanation on him.
He's not a really important character in the grand scheme of the film.
But that happens.
Oh, there's also Shoko's love confession.
Yeah,
which
doesn't go as planned for her. Because
being deaf, she struggles with speaking.
Yeah.
Properly, because she can't hear herself speak.
No, yeah.
Which actually, a bit of behind the scenes stuff. Shoko's voice actress is actually a deaf actress,
which I thought was wonderful.
Which is fascinating and pretty cool.
I think that is truly amazing. That they went and did that, because really, like, you get like someone who can relate to the character as well.
But there's a very heartwarming scene where Shoko like changes her hair and like tries to like confess her love for Shoya, which he then misinterprets as her talking about the moon.
The moon. And it's really cute.
There's also the grandmother, like Shoko's grandmother, and the subtle scene of. So the grandmother's kind of like the morality chain for that entire family, because that entire family's kind of a mess as well, for obvious reasons. And there's a point where like it's very subtle how it like brings this up to the character, but you see a scene of them at a hospital. And it then cuts to Shoko crying on her bed,
And at first, you almost think it's like about Shoko.
Yeah, because it doesn't really explain anything. All you see is she's got one of her hearing aids out and she's just crying, and it doesn't. It kind of leaves it at that.
Yeah.
And then later in the film, you get another scene of the younger sister in the
school union.
And well, first she's at the night before she's talking with the grandmother and basically trying to keep basically the grandmother tells her, I need you to make amends with your mother.
Yeah.
You need to stop this nonsense.
Yeah.
And then the next scene, it implies that she's in an actual, like, not being a tomboy anymore, and she's wearing a girl's uniform.
Yeah.
And it implies, she says that she has a place to go, and Shoya, not knowing, goes, oh, I'll go with you. And she goes, I don't think you want to go. And it's implied that it's the funeral of the grandmother who died the night before.
Yeah.
Because she was sick. I think the implication was when the hospital scene before was that she was basically told she has, like, I'm assuming terminal cancer or some sort of terminal illness.
And eventually Shoya does make amends with the mother. Like, he helps Shoko and her sister make a birthday cake for her.
Mm-hmm.
And at first she doesn't want to accept him, but she ends up accepting him, which leads to one of the most important scenes in the movie.
Is the
fireworks.
So this is after Shoya's already, like, basically abandoned all his friends again.
Yeah.
Given up. And he's at the fireworks with Shoko.
It's during summer break, and they're enjoying the fireworks, and Shoko goes, I'm gonna leave early. I'm gonna go home early. And Shoya's like, what? Like, he's confused.
Meanwhile, Shoko is having a mental breakdown.
Shoko has a lot of mental issues herself. Like,
basically,
she
thinks all of Shoya's problems are because of her.
And she thinks a lot of it, like, how, like, he ended a lot of his friendships, which he didn't really end. It's more they got into an argument she feels is her fault.
Yep.
And a lot of it, too, I think, is dark-haired girls.
Naoya, I think her name, or Naoya, whatever her name is.
I think she puts a lot of bad thoughts into Shoko's head.
She puts a lot of bad thoughts into everybody's head.
So Shoya ends up following her.
She's like the definition of a toxic friend.
Yeah. So Shoya ends up following her home and goes into the house, and he realizes...
Her name, that's what her name is.
Yeah. He realizes it's really quiet, and then he ends up going out, and he sees Shoko standing on the railing of her apartment about... She's
about to off herself.
Which was, like, very, like, almost, like, for him, like, a flashback. So he runs. And then immediately trips and
falls. Because it's supposed to imply, like, is he gonna make it?
Yeah, and honestly, in watching it, we were like, oh my god, what's happening? And he ends up getting her,
just by a thread.
But in the process, also ends up
as he's basically holding onto her with everything he's got, and he has enough strength to get her up enough so she can get both her hands and climb up.
Yeah.
But as she's climbing up, he slips and falls.
Yeah, and falls to the point
where... Into the river.
Where you don't know if he's gonna make it, and he actually is in the hospital and is in a coma.
So, and then another scene that's implied, it's not exactly explained well in the anime, but in the manga, it's actually implied the blonde-haired boy and his former friends from elementary school actually
were the ones who pulled him out.
Although they lose a bit of sympathy points because the only reason they were there was to make fun of him.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, yeah, it's great you did that, but you're still a bunch of assholes.
Yeah. And...
Yeah, now we get to the most depressing scene in the film.
Oh my god.
So Shoya's now in the hospital, like, in a coma.
Yeah.
And basically, Shoko is completely just despondent at this point.
Yeah. She's basically, like, losing it. Well, because she feels enormous guilt, like, that should be me. Like, I should be in the hospital. I should be dead.
And then you get the scene of Shoko's mother and Shoya's mother in the hospital, and Shoko's mother's having a fucking breakdown in there, and basically Shoya's mother's telling her, please, not in here.
Yeah.
And then you get the infamous, probably the turning scene of Noka is basically beating the shit out of Shoko out there.
Yeah. And it's, like, really, like, it's a very dark scene. And Shoya's mom ends up and comes breaking.
Well, Shoko's mom first comes to, and then they start fighting each other.
Yeah.
And then Shoya's mom shows up to break up the entire thing.
Yeah.
Basically telling them, you need to stop. This is not what
this is not why we're here.
This is not what Shoya would want.
Yeah. And you kind of, at this point, don't really know if Shoya's going to make it or not.
No.
Like, you really don't know. And his friends all come and, like, visit him in the hospital.
Well, no, they try... Well, they all visit except for Shoko, who...
Yeah, who can't, because every time she goes,
Naoka
dark-haired girl.
is there.
Yeah, is there, and she's not
Being
playing
a
her.
bitch for no reason.
Shoko ends up kind of, like, reaching out to each of them as well. Like, each of the friends to be, like, try and make amends for Shoya, almost. And let them know what's, like, going on. And one of them she tries really hard is, now you dark-haired girl, basically. Because, like, you see her standing on, like, the street corner, like, waiting for her to leave the hospital so she can talk to her. But she ignores her every time. But eventually she gives in and talks to her. And it's kind of said that, like, they will never be friends, but she will stop being a complete jerk to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they'll never be friends. And that's okay. They don't... And that's one thing, too, is that, like, I think Shoko tried to be everyone's friend, but I think it's also good realization that, like,
you can't be everybody's friend.
No, you can't be everybody's friend.
Because some people don't want to be friends with everybody.
Yeah. Not everyone wants to be your friend. And also, I think she realizes that she has a lot of issues herself. Like, she's not the only one going through things. Like, this girl is also going through a lot
Everybody
of
in this film, aside from the red-haired guy, seems to have a lot of issues.
Yeah. And I think one of the next, like, greatest things is eventually Shoya does wake up. Like, he wakes up and he's, like...
He wakes up, and then, of course, we get a little bit of anime logic here, where he's just suddenly is able to walk out of the hospital.
Yeah, which, like, wouldn't happen, but hey, it happened.
Usually when you're in a coma that long, you can't walk after you get up.
But he ends up, like, he's like, I need to see Shoko. I need to know that Shoko is alright. And they end up meeting on the bridge.
The bridge where everything happens.
Yeah, and it's, like, a really important set piece in the movie, and they meet, and, like, they hug, and I don't know if she confesses again.
It's not it's implied, but it's never actually stated in the film.
Yeah, and they kind of reunite, and she's so happy. They're just so happy each other are okay.
Yep. And then the film ends on a great note of basically them at the school festival, and the friend group gets back together.
All the friends get back together, and, like, one of the things too is that, like, Shoya, like, when they're on the bridge talking, they, like, decided that, you know, each of them is going to help each other grow as a person, and he's going to help Shoko in her ways, and Shoko is going to help Shoya in his ways, to grow, and it's like a promise. And one of Shoya's things is, like, he's not going to immediately give up on people, he's going to give people a chance, like,
yeah.
So...
And then you get the greatest climax of the film is all the exes falling off.
Yeah, and all the friends reunite, and it really is, like, a wonderful ending. And I do think it's implied they're dating at the end as well.
It's never stated explicitly, but it's heavily implied.
But it's heavily implied.
Because you know it's going to happen at that point.
And it was a wonderful movie. It was very emotional. And, like, I think it's also a movie that, like, you could show someone who isn't necessarily an anime fan, and I feel like they would connect to it.
It is a very dark film, though, and I wouldn't recommend watching it if you're in a poor mental state.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of them that it tugs at the heartstrings. Like, I was crying during it, and I think Bill cried too, and Bill's not a crier, so it's definitely a wonderful movie.
Yeah,
a very deep movie, and
by far. And then so that one was great, and then we kind of were debating what we wanted our third film to be, and then so I'll say Belle 9 out of 10 for me. Silent Voice I gave a flat out 10 out of 10. I thought that film was great.
I thought it was wonderful.
I can't believe it took us that long to watch it. I had the Blu-ray for like 3 years.
I wish we'd watched it sooner, because really, like, wow, like, it's definitely one of those movies that it's very deep and it's very dark, like, but it's also, you can almost connect to it, because I think a lot of people have gone through similar things, not necessarily in the same functions, but a lot of people have been bullied, a lot of people see what happens, a lot of people contemplate giving up their life, and, you know, it was kind of a nice twist to see, like, hey, like, he was like, I'm not going to do this.
Also a realistic, like, depiction of, like, someone with, like, an actual disability like
Oh
that.
yeah, like very like appropriate. Like it wasn't like they must. I don't know who they had while writing it, or maybe like the author was connected to someone with it, but truly had a great understanding of a person with disabilities.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely planning on reading the manga in full because I have it.
Yeah.
You can get the manga now in 2 like big collector's editions,
Yeah.
like that combines all 7 volumes together. So I'm looking forward to reading that at some point.
Yeah.
But anyways, now moving on to the third and final film for this episode.
Yep.
So we originally were going to do another like standalone film, but we
Yeah.
actually ended up. So kind of like we watched Dragon Ball Super early in the year. We also had planned. I bought the tickets to see Dragon Ball Superhero,
Yes.
and then Alex wanted to see One Piece Film Red.
Yeah.
Of course. So our third film for
If
this.
you guys didn't realize, I'm a One Piece
Yeah,
fan.
she's a bit on that side of the fandom. So yeah, we finally saw One Piece Film Red.
Right.
What number film is this at this point?
I have no idea.
It's-
There's been a lot of One Piece movies.
It's got to be getting close to 20 at this point. but
Maybe. I'm not sure.
It's
but
the
I
most
know-
recent film. That's just what
Yeah,
we'll
it's
say.
the most recent film, and it's basically been hyped for like so long now. And honestly, like I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. I know it had mixed reviews from fans, but I think also people kind of didn't realize what they were getting into. Like when I saw like who the like one of the main characters was and how she was a singer, I knew it was going to be a very music centric movie.
Yeah, it is
Like, I
very
knew
much.
that going in. I think people kind of forgot that.
It's actually arguably more musical than Belle was.
Yeah,
in a
I
lot of
almost
ways.
said, yeah. So, kind of as it started out is it starts out where the Straw Hat Pirates are going to the island of Elegia. I think that's what
I
it-
think yeah.
I
It's,
think that's what it's called. For a concert by Uda, who's like a world famous singer.
she's essentially a pop idol, like a
Um,
Japanese idol.
Yeah, and she's basically a Japanese idol, and she performs her first song. And I will say, Ado, the singer, who did all of Uda's songs, wonderful, like really great singer. And I do appreciate that they didn't try translating it to English. I know some people prefer it, but I don't know. I just think, I just like the Japanese singing. I think it would have not been as good if they had tried to translate.
What is fascinating though is in Japan she's got 2 voice actresses. She's got her standard voice actress and then her singing voice, Ado.
Yeah.
In English she's voiced by Amanda Lee or Amelie, which is funny because Amelie's also a singer,
Yeah.
which
it was
I
funny.
found pretty amusing.
Yeah.
Which would have been I kind of part of me wish kind of hope she does the songs like as just a bonus thing, not actually for the film. But
I bet she'll definitely do it on her Spotify page at some point.
yeah. But I thought that was a neat touch.
Yeah. So after she performs her first song, Luffy being Luffy, jumps on the stage and is like, Uda, I know you. We were friends as kids, and basically reunites.
And everyone's
The
like, who
childhood
the
friend.
fuck is this?
Well, a big thing too is that like everyone was like, why is there a pirate here? Because a lot of Uda's fans are people who have like struggled, and like not all pirates are like the Straw Hats. Like not every pirate is good. There's bad pirates out there, and they do bad things. So in this crown, everyone's like not really pirate friendly, but Luffy
Yeah.
goes on stage and he basically reveals that she's the daughter of red-haired Shanks.
Yeah.
And that's how they know each other, because they met when Luffy, like, they would dock in her hometown. And as that's happening and he's on stage, she actually almost gets kidnapped by a bunch of pirate crews. You actually see some of the Big Mom pirates and then this random one that was made for the movie. And Uda kind of reveals more of her devil fruit, which is actually, like, I think it's like the Sing
Sing
the
fruit or
Sing
something.
fruit?
Yeah.
Which you find out more about the Sing fruit, but I'm not going to spoil it just yet, because you'll find out as I continue.
Let's just say that at first glance, the Sing fruit is very overpowered.
Oh yeah, very, very overpowered. So what she does is, as she's singing, she ends up fighting them with her songs, and basically ends up capturing them in a
on a music sheet music essentially.
yeah, on sheet music basically, and
But
they
if you-
end up being the notes of
Yeah.
the music. which is a plot point eventually.
Yeah.
So
that's one way of putting it.
after that, like, the concert continues, they're having fun, and one thing Uda does is she tells Luffy that he should stop being a pirate.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay. Like, at first you're like, okay, ha ha ha. And Luffy's like, nah. And then Luffy's like, all right, this was fun, but I'm leaving.
Yeah, well, actually, there was another thing earlier on, too, like a little foreshadowing is when Sanji's the cook, right?
Yeah.
When Sanji's cooking, he notices, looking through the ingredients, he finds this odd mushroom.
Yeah.
Just chilling in there, and it's like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Bit of foreshadowing for the future.
A little bit, yeah. So Luffy's like, all right, it's time for us to go. And the crew's like, yeah, it's time for it. We got to get out of here. And Uda ends up going a little yandere and is like, nope, you're not leaving. And she basically wants...
Was this before or after we got the whole backstory of Uda? Like,
we don't know the backstory yet.
Okay, so we haven't got the flashback yet.
Yeah. So it's more Luffy's confronting her, and he's like, no, like, I gotta go. And she's like, no, you ain't. And she ends up doing the same thing she just did to the other pirates, to the Straw Hats. Luffy, though, is able to get away with...
Thanks to
Law, who comes in...
Bartolomeo.
Law and Bartolomeo, who come in to, like, basically rescues him.
And Law's panda friend.
Beppo. Who Beppo is a big Uda fan. One of the best scenes is Beppo, he has, like, this big, like, Uda, like, basically shrine on his back, and it keeps going off at the worst moments, and Law is just like, Beppo! Which,
my favorite joke was the whole, he's like, oh, I didn't know you were an Uda fan, Law, and he's like, I'm not. I'm a chaperone.
And Law is one of those characters who, like, the fan base has just loved. So it was very fun to see him in the movie because everyone loves him and Luffy's interactions. But basically, one thing I forgot to point out is after that, like, the confrontation with Luffy, she basically kind of, in her yandere, she's basically saying, like, this concert is going to last forever and ever and ever, and it's never going to end. Basically meaning that,
she's, like, slowly becoming more and more unhinged, essentially.
Yeah, well, you don't realize it, but she's very unhinged. As it's not shown, but she already is pretty unhinged. So he's rescued, and meanwhile, while all of this is happening, you see, like, the world government and the 5 elders, and the Marines, and they're basically saying, alright, we need to they deeming that Uda is a threat to the world, and they're basically going to kill her.
Yeah.
Which is, like, dark, very, very dark, so, they send the admirals Kizaru and Fujitora to Elegia to subdue her. And as Luffy's group is, like, pursued, Luffy ends up running into Gordon, who was once the king of Elegia. And he ends up telling them more about Uda and more of her backstory and what happened. And also the threat of Tot Musica.
Yeah.
Which is basically, like, the big boss for the movie.
Evil sheet music.
I guess
evil sheet music.
Evil sheet music. So he ends up meeting Gordon, and Gordon basically tells her about how Uda's been sheltered, and he kind of sheltered her to become the best musician in the whole world. But because of that, she was suffering. She was suffering from the pain. In her mind, at the time you think in her mind, that Shanks abandoned her on the island. But really, that's not what happened. Shanks didn't abandon her.
And you can see that from a mile away if you're paying attention.
Oh, yeah. So, and it's basically told that the island Elegia was destroyed by Shanks' crew. But that didn't really happen.
From what you've learned about Shanks, that seems very out of character.
Oh, yeah. So, another thing, Uda basically ends up finding them, which Luffy has to escape, and Gordon is pleading with her to stop this, don't carry out her plan, and don't unleash the song. But she immobilizes him and...
keeps the song with her in her little headset thing.
Yeah. and also makes Beppo really tiny. She
Yeah.
shrinks Beppo.
You start noticing really quick that there's a lot of weird shit
Going
happening
on in this world.
like in the world. Like she can like manipulate time and space all of a sudden.
Yeah,
and
which
like
is being told when Luffy ends up coming across two Marines. He's known Kobe and Helmeppo, and Blano, who's from who's undercover Cypher Pole from the world government, and they end up telling him. They reveal what the Sing Sing fruit actually does, which the Sing Sing fruit allows people into the dream world of the Sing Sing world. So basically, they realize that they're not even, they're all sleeping.
Everything you've been seeing is completely fake.
Yeah.
Like, they're all actually asleep.
Out. Yeah, in the concert hall.
Isn't it implied, too, that, like, the food they've been eating is, like, what's putting them to sleep? Or is it actually the...
No, it's her songs. As soon as you hear her sing...
no, she's the one that with the food. Never mind.
Yes. And it's also revealed that Uda has been consuming what Sanji threw away, which are called wake shrooms. And wake shrooms keep the user awake at all hours. And because of that, that's how she's keeping everyone trapped. Because if she falls asleep, everyone else will be free. But if she stays awake, no one will be free. The problem is that consuming that many wake shrooms will kill you.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening, and that's kind of her plan, which you're like, holy shit, her
She's
plan
basically
is
just
to
gonna
like
commit genocide.
Yeah, genocide, basically, which is kind of crazy.
But as it goes on, like, her little world there keeps getting more and more, like,
well, yeah,
unhinged.
Because at the time, like, originally she's had all her fans on her side, but now some of them are like, okay, I really need to go, I need to go home, and she's like, no, you can't go home. And they're like, what? So everyone's kind of starting to turn against her. And outside of the world, she starts fighting the Marines, and the Marines are all fighting, and it's not going well.
No, especially when the Marines start being jackasses and just killing innocent people.
Yeah.
Because they know it'll get to her.
And Robin kind of explains...
Robin's misexposition again.
Yeah, they were in this library and they end up finding more information.
Oh, we didn't explain though how the Straw Hats get free though.
Oh yeah. So basically, how the Straw Hats got free is that they found out the way to escape the music sheet is to sing the notes. So they each have to sing the note, or Brooke actually sings the notes, and it sets them all free.
Yeah,
but they also end up setting free. The Big Mom Pirates, because they're going to need all the help they can get, basically. And basically they find out that because of what's happening, Uda is going to unleash Tot Musica, which is basically, you find out, this ancient demon that can exist in both worlds. But by unleashing it, it's also the way of it implies that they can kind of connect to the outside world and get freed that way. But it doesn't end up actually working that way, even though that's what they said, because they still ended up trapped in there. But basically, if they unleash the beast, it won't go well. So as everyone is now kind of turning on Uda, she just transforms them all into inanimate objects, and then Luffy ends up confronting her, and it then starts the very big battle. And in the meantime, in the outside world, Shanks appears with his crew, and they end up confronting as well. Unfortunately, Uda does unleash Shanks tries to help Uda, but Uda doesn't want the help at the moment. But she's terrified of she sees the Marines slaughtering everyone there, basically, which is very fucked up. And because of that, and she's also kind of slipping into delirium because of the wake shrooms, and then she summons it, and basically at that point
shit goes down.
Yeah, so it's basically this big monster, and the only way to defeat it is if Shanks' crew and Luffy's crew fight at the same time.
Yeah, they have to essentially synchronize their attacks.
Yeah, and it was honestly one of my favorite scenes was
Well, but the problem is at first it doesn't work so well because Luffy is just being Luffy.
Well, it doesn't work well because they aren't able to communicate, so they aren't coordinating the attacks correctly.
And Luffy likes to run off on his own.
Yeah, and Luffy does what Luffy does best. So they end up coordinating, and what happens is that Yasop, who is Usopp's father, and Yasop is part of the red-haired pirates, he has a special type of hockey, observation hockey, where he can communicate. He's actually communicating with Usopp, which is really cool because it's really one of the first times they've communicated, even though it's not canon, but like Usopp's never seen his father growing up. So it was like a really cool scene, and they're basically working together to direct the crews to fight Top Musica. And it's a really cool fight. Has each of the red-haired pirates, which you barely see anything of in the actual anime.
Yeah.
It's not their time yet. They'll appear soon. And it has them all coordinating fights. And you also see some of the big mom pirates, like Katakuri appears, and Katakuri is a fan favorite character from the big mom pirates. And they're fighting. And of course, one of the coolest scenes is Gear 5 gets animated. Which I actually like that they didn't make it a big deal. Like, it was only for a little bit, but I think it was, like, just all that it needed. Because, honestly, like, it's not the time yet. They put that for the fans, but it's not the big reveal yet. You don't need it. But it's there, and it was really cool.
Yeah. There was that, and then also when they finally do defeat Top Musica, it's implied that, no, shit's still bad. Like,
yeah, so what happens, so everyone is still asleep, and Shanks goes to Uta, who is now, like, freed from Top Musica, but now the wake streams are really getting to her, and he actually tries to feed her medicine. I forgot one of the important scenes, too, where before all this happens, when Shanks first arrives, Uta is actually trying to kill Luffy from the outside world. Like, she basically has a knife over his heart and is basically trying to kill him because he won't quit being a pirate, and Shanks stops her.
Symbolically, she's going to stab him through the straw hat, too.
Yeah, well, because she rips the straw hat in the other world. But Shanks stops her. But I forgot to mention that, and that was also a really good scene.
The introduction of Shanks.
Introduction of Shanks.
Not in a flashback.
No, yeah. But anyways, back to that. You also learn before she summons Top Musica, that she knows what really happened to the island, and what really happened was she actually had summoned him before. And that's what destroyed
evil sheet music
ago. Yeah, no, that's what destroyed it years ago. But Shanks didn't want her to feel the guilt.
So he took the blame and left her behind to be erased.
Yeah, to become the world's greatest singer. But unfortunately, it really broke
like
her heart.
Like all plans, that doesn't go as planned.
And soon she actually did find out that she was the one who did that. Like, she finds out the truth. But she still, like, feels anger and bitter about it. But basically, after they defeat Top Musica, Shanks is trying to give her the medicine, to make her fall asleep, but she refuses, because she knows at this point that, like, she won't be able to save everyone, so she basically needs to free them with her song, which she sings a beautiful song, and everyone gets freed, and, it's really sad. It's basically her final song.
Yeah. And then it cuts to the end where all the straw hats are back on the sunny.
Yeah, and there's a cute scene where, well, not cute, but like it's a nice scene where like Shanks is by Luffy's side with Uta in like her last moments.
Luffy's asleep still.
Yeah, and Luffy's still asleep because they can't meet yet. It's not time yet. But you know, he needed to like make sure that he was okay, and then they all wake up and they're back on the sunny. And they basically are sailing in two directions. And Luffy sees Shanks' ship. And
it's not said, but it's heavily implied that they're having a funeral for Uta.
Yeah, like you see a coffin. Because basically by refusing the medicine, she did save everyone, but...
At the cost of her own life.
But she did. Unfortunately, eating that many wake shrooms killed her.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's not really explicitly shown. Like, you have to really look into it to see, but... it was sad, but you kind of
It's a non-canon film. We can't have any loose ends.
no, yeah, you can't see it. And they end up just staying, you know, staying apart.
Yeah.
But it was nice that Uda and Shanks were able to reconcile, and there's a flashback of like when Shanks first found
The implication,
Uda.
because it's implied, it's basically confirmed that she's not actually
She's
his
not
daughter.
his real daughter, but he raised her as his daughter.
Found her in a treasure chest.
Oh yeah. And it was a sad ending, but I really enjoyed the film.
And then the credit scenes with all the people. Like, who are these people?
Yeah, well, no, I knew who all of them were, but you didn't, because you've never watched One Piece. So for the fans of One Piece, it was great kind of to see the ending scene, like, credits, were basically all these flashbacks to all, like, their friends and family along the way, which was really nice, because they're listening to Uda, and it's basically implied that Uda's may be gone, but her songs will live on forever, which was really sweet, and, like, it's always good to get those flashback scenes. Like, one of One Piece fans' favorite episodes are, like, the bounty reveals, because they go back and flashback to, like, all the friends they made along the way, which is really good. But I really enjoyed it. I mean, I love a good musical, so I enjoyed it.
You like One Piece more than the
And
average
I
person.
love One Piece, so I definitely would see it again, and I'm actually tempted to buy movie tickets again to watch it after work one day. Because I have a problem, but it's fine.
Yeah. I will say I gave it I think I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
It's definitely better than Gold. I didn't care for Gold very much.
Yeah.
I'd say it's on par with Stampede. I still think Z was the better film.
Yeah.
That's my personal
I think
opinion, though.
story-wise, like Z, I feel like this story was more... It was more Oda wanted to do a musical,
Yeah.
and that's what he did.
I mean, I will say it was a pretty film to watch. Like, the animation was great.
Yeah, animation was beautiful.
Great subtle, but, like, very well done in implementation of CG.
Yeah, and the music was great.
Oh, yeah,
Otto did an amazing job with all the songs.
The freaking Tot Musica song, like, when that finally plays, it's
Oh my
so
God, it's
eerie
very,
and unsettling.
But it works because she's summoning, like, an evil demon, so it works.
Very trippy part of the movie, too, with that
Yeah.
whole sequence.
I guess all these movies had a little depression in it, though.
Oh, yeah,
I guess
little.
that was the theme, is there's a lot of depression.
I still can't get over, like, Shanks is voiced by Brandon Potter, who's literally... it's just Godo from freaking Ace Attorney.
Stop.
Every time I'm just waiting for him to whip out some coffee.
Oh my goodness. Hey, he was probably Shanks before that.
He was.
Yeah.
He was Shanks way
He was
before
Shanks
that.
way before that.
But I saw Ace Attorney before I realized he was Shanks.
This must have been fun for him too, because he actually got to do some work.
Yeah, he has. How many lines has he said in like how many years?
Not a lot. Not a lot.
Yeah,
Shanks is one of those characters who's like one of the most famous characters in One Piece, but he's really only had like less than an hour of screen time.
Yeah. That's why he's so popular, because he doesn't appear.
Yeah.
If he was in every
also
episode.
because of his connection to Luffy, and now he basically sends Luffy like on his journey to become the king of the pirates.
Yeah.
So
out of the three, what would you say was your favorite? I mean, you're a little biased, but
I will say I've been looking forward to One Piece Red for a while, so that one was my favorite. But I gotta say, A Silent Voice was very it was so much better than I expected.
That's probably my favorite of the three, just because it the most complete story, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like most original story too, because
yeah.
I mean, I like Belle, but it's Beauty and the Beast. Half of it's Beauty and the Beast.
The Silent Voice was his own story, and it was a wonderful story that needed to be told. So.
Yep, definitely. But yeah, so we'll probably do this one again in the future at some point.
Yeah, because there's plenty more
films.
anime movies out there for us to watch.
And we're going to be doing series retrospectives, not movies in the future. There's always more movies to watch. So.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, thanks again for joining us. So, once again, the Gaming Collecting Podcast can be found on all your major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcast and Spotify. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter or Good Pods. Yeah, Twitter. Or any otherwise, guys. You can find all our applicable links at Linktree / The Barber Who Games. And until next time, guys, we will see you all later.
See you later. Tilly says bye.
Bye.